So this is part 2 of language paper 2 for Edexcel GCSE English language 1 to 9. So we're now talking about text 2. On the screen in front of you, you can see a copy of text 2. If you don't have it, pause now and do a screen grab so that you can refer to it throughout the short lesson I'm going to give you. Okay, we're only looking at language paper 2, as you've probably just seen pop up in the corner there. So that's what we'll do. So pause and screen grab. So language paper 2, the beast that bites, because it is a beast, and the trick to this paper actually is all in the timing. So today we're going to think about text 2. On this particular session, I'm going to talk to you about just text 2. So it's questions 4, 5 and 6, but mostly we're going to focus on question 6. You can see there in the cloud shape, telling you what colours to look at to address the level you're aiming for. Everybody should be trying a minimum of the black text though, because the black text is the basics that you need to cover, and if you do them really well, you will still get a 6 or a 7. So remember, the first two questions are still find the thing questions, AO1, just identify and interpret explicit information and ideas. So you just need to pick out two things. What you can do is you can ask a friend or your mum, or, well, don't ask the dog because it probably can't read, but, you know, ask somebody around you to make up a few really basic comprehension questions. If you go online, there's loads of comprehension practice you can find. There's loads on GCSE bite size, pots and pots of stuff. Just practice doing basic find the thing comprehension so you get fast at this, because I tell you this for nothing, there are 2 or 3 easy points to be had in these marks, and they shouldn't take you more than a minute to do. So don't leave them out because you think you need more time for the longer questions. Do them because they are easy marks to gain. Take no time at all. Read those questions before you read the text. That's the trick. Read the questions before you read the text. Okay, go. So on to question 6. Question 6 focuses explicitly on AO4, which asks you to evaluate the text critically and then refer to or quote from, use a quotation to support the point that you're making. It bears a few moments here thinking about this idea of being critical. It doesn't mean that you start to express your likes and dislikes about the text. It means what you do is you think about how effective the strategies are that the author has used when writing. So thinking about that text too, and thinking about the time in which it was written, which is really important in this paper, because one of the texts could potentially be almost 200 years older than the other if they put one right at the beginning of the 20th and one sort of, 120 years apart potentially. What we've got here is we've got potentially 5 generations worth of differences on extracts that are talking about cycling. Things have changed, bikes have changed, technology has changed, people's approach to exercise has changed, the amount of traffic on the road has changed. I mean, it's dangerous being a cyclist now. It's the reason why they wear those head cams. So there's lots of things that have changed, and you need to make sure you look at the date on that article and you think about what it was like at the time the article was written. When you are evaluating a text critically, what you're doing is you're looking at that article and the date at which it was written and thinking, is it fit for purpose at the time it was written? Does it speak to its audience? Is the subject matter, the style, the language, and the way that it's organised actually engage the people it's meant to engage? And they will give you some ideas about that in the way that you've approached text 1. So when you're thinking about text 1 and language and structure, it's already saying to you, okay, these are the ways in which an author might engage their audience. Now, how effective have they been in doing that? So that's what you're thinking about. Not, oh, I really like it because it's old-fashioned and funny, but actually at the time it was written, people were beginning to appreciate the benefits of regular exercise. It was a time when there was a little bit of austerity as well, so that the idea of saving yourself some money and becoming fitter and healthier at the same time appealed to a lot of people, and that's what you should be writing about and thinking about, not, oh, I don't like it because the language is too difficult to understand. Okay? Don't fall into the trap of thinking you are evaluating it for the way that it communicates to you. You're not. You're evaluating it for the way it communicates to the audience for which it was written. Okay, so make sure you draw that distinction when you're writing. So here we go again. As you can see in the blue box, I've crossed out describe and comment because we are not entertaining band 1 and band 2s. We're only looking at the top layer. So you need to write about ideas, events, themes and settings. At Burnham Grammar School, we use the acronym TIES, but I'm sure there are lots of other ways to organise those 3 letters to help you remember what you need to write about. You need to make sure that you've made a judgment about the text, like I said before, not about your own personal likes and dislikes or engagement, but actually about the way the text speaks to the people it was written for. That's what you're after. And you need to make sure you use quotations from the text. You only use a sharply focused bit of quotation. It could be 1 or 2 words, it could be half a sentence, but you don't overuse quotations. You don't write out 3 lines and hope that you've got the right bit somewhere in the middle of all of that. You zoom in, and you zoom in on the bit of quotation that really supports your idea and proves your point. Now, if I was thinking about a car and I was looking at it, I would point at it and I would say, that's a car, it's got an engine in it. That is me explaining. Okay? If I was analysing it, I'd open the bonnet and I'd say, that's a car, and there's the engine, and it makes it go. That's analysing. It's talking about the effect that the engine has on the car. It's going no further than that though. If I'm looking at the car and I'm opening the bonnet, I'm looking at the engine and I'm saying, hey, that's a car, that's the engine, but I can see it's a pretty small engine, it's a bit old and mucky, and spark plugs aren't very good, and so on and so forth, so I don't think it's going to run as well as it could. I suddenly have become critical, and I am evaluating the quality of that engine. Apply the same thing to the text when you look at it. Evaluate the quality of that text. So when you're looking at text 2, you're thinking, there's a text about cycling. It was written quite a long time ago and the language is quite formal. But actually, because the language is quite formal, it has a tone of authority. And that tone of authority is more likely to make it plausible to its audience. Nowadays, we might not believe that sort of tone. We might not find it quite so convincing. But at the time this was written, that kind of authoritative, formal tone was a really good way to get people to believe what you were saying. Churchill did not use slang. So, when you're writing this question, do not bother writing an introduction. No need. Most of you will just rewrite the question anyway, and it's just a waste of ink and time and paper and the markers reading time, and basically pointless. Don't do it. Okay? Don't write about language and structure all over again. You can write about language and structure only in so much as it supports a point about theme, ideas, events or settings in the extract. Do not write this makes the reader. Without some kind of blackmail, you can't make the reader do anything. And actually, even with blackmail, you probably couldn't make most readers do things if they really didn't want to. Okay? It could encourage, it could suggest to, but it can't make the reader do anything. Don't just describe the text. That's boring. Everybody's read it. You don't need to do it. For goodness sake, when you've got the text in front of you, do not forget to use quotations, and don't just make sweeping generalizations either. Don't use the writer's first name. If that person has not been round to your house and had a cup of tea with your mum, you don't have the right to use their first name. Use their surname or their full name. Again, don't bother with a conclusion. A well-written 3 sets of 3 paragraphs that address one of themes, ideas, events and settings each. You don't need all 4. You just need to make 3 separate and well-chosen points. Will do. Don't need an introduction. Don't need a conclusion. Don't write one. Don't waste your time. Only write down things that actually will get you marks. Sorry, ranted a bit there, but I've read an awful lot of papers that are filled with the writer says. So, things to include. Include the point of view of the writer. So write about that. Write about the way language creates imagery and how that creates setting or meaning or how it furthers a theme. Think about how personal it is or isn't for the writer. Okay, how it conveys their emotion. So in question 3, you wrote about emotion. Here, you're also writing about how emotion is conveyed, but you're writing about how the idea of that emotion has a theme of happiness or healthiness or whatever. Think about the way word choice is used to support your ideas, but don't spend 5 lines explaining why someone has chosen to use the word cycle instead of bicycle. Do think about the way the text is organised. Okay? Analyse and evaluate how well it works as a piece of communication in the time in which it was written. Really, really, really important. So, pause, have a go, and write. So you want 3 to 4 strong points. We use PEARLS as an acronym in Burnham Grammar School. That stands for Point, Evidence, Analysis, Response. So that's either the reader or some kind of reflection. And then linking back to the question, so to make sure that you're absolutely on target with your ideas. Do not write an introduction or conclusion. Don't be tempted. Honestly, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't make me come out of this screen and get you, because I will. All right, pause and write for 15 minutes. Hopefully, you've done that writing. Now, obviously, unless you're working with a mate, you cannot peer assess. So get that mark scheme out and be super critical of what you've written. Really pick your own writing to pieces here so that you know what you need to do better next time you try one of these questions. Okay? Pause and do that now. Finally, think about it. Okay, this is the second lesson in this series. Think about the positives and think about what you've already learned and what you can already do better than you did when you clicked on, yeah, let's watch what Wrycraft's been up to now. Okay, it is really easy to get disillusioned because this is so hard and there's so much to do in so little time, and you think 15 minutes is not long enough to write a decent answer, but it's as long as everybody gets. Okay, everybody in the whole country is in exactly the same boat as you. So all you need to do is to be better than the rest of them. Okay? Set yourself a target, be ready for next time, and well done, everybody.